Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those in favor say no. No. It's the opinion of the chair that the ayes have it and the resolution is agreed to, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The atmosphere inside Congress was tense as Ilhan Omar once again took the stage to defend herself. Her tone was emotional, her words carefully chosen. She spoke about her journey, her hardships, and the constant criticism she faces. But what began as a speech about struggle soon became a plea for sympathy. Omar framed herself as the victim of political attacks rather than the subject of fair accountability. That's when Lisa McClain decided she'd heard enough. What followed was one of the most explosive congressional exchanges of the year, a verbal showdown where emotion met logic, and McClain made it clear that playing the victim wouldn't work this time. Next voice, Ilhan. Omar opened her remarks with a story of struggle, painting a vivid picture of her life's journey from refugee camps to the halls of Congress. Her voice carried emotion as she said she had been unfairly targeted because of her background, her faith, and her heritage. It was a familiar performance, the same narrative Omar has used many times to soften public criticism. She spoke about feeling isolated, about being misunderstood, about how political opponents twist her words to attack her character. The room was quiet, but that...
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced? Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. There is an idea out there that I do not have objective decision making because of who I am, where I come from, and my perspective. But I reject that. We say there is nothing objective about policy making. We all inject our perspective, our point of views, our lived experiences, and the voices of our constituents. That's what
But that silence didn't mean agreement. Many lawmakers were listening carefully, waiting for the inevitable shift from personal story to political blame. And when she finally accused her critics of constant harassment, murmurs filled the chamber. Everyone knew Lisa McClain was about to respond. And when she stood up, the mood in the room changed instantly. Lisa McClain began slowly, her voice steady and composed, but with an edge of certainty that commanded attention. She didn't match Omar's emotion. She countered it with facts. McClain said that every member of Congress faces scrutiny and that criticism is not persecution. It's part of democracy. She made it clear that public office is not about avoiding tough questions, but about answering them with honesty. McClain called out Omar's tendency to hide behind her identity whenever she's held accountable. "We are all accountable to the people who put us here," she said firmly. "And none of us get to play the victim when our words hurt others." The words were calm but cutting, echoing across the chamber. McClain wasn't there to embarrass Omar. She was there to remind her that leadership demands responsibility, not self-pity. Next voice. As Omar tried to interject, her frustration became visible. She insisted she was being targeted unfairly and accused McClain of twisting her intentions. But McClain didn't raise her voice. Instead, she leaned into her calm tone and said, "No one's twisting anything, Congresswoman. We're quoting your words." The line silenced the room. McClain reminded Omar that disagreement isn't oppression and that accountability isn't hate. It was a sharp moment, one that cut through the...
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to use that logic, well, then all those people should have just said sorry and we'd move on, right? But no, we don't do that. And let me tell you, I take a little bit of offense to what the hell is wrong with me. I'll tell you, there's nothing wrong with me. I took an oath to defend the Constitution, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Again, I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to hold the Constitution, and it's very simple. We really shouldn't even have this debate. If you break the law and you follow due process, there are consequences to your actions, even if you say sorry. So we can try all of the diversion tactics that we would like it doesn't change the fact that someone broke the law and that someone should be held accountable. It is disappointing, Mr. Speaker, that their own party can't hold them accountable, that they have such hypocrisy.
Debate back to reality. McClain said she was tired of seeing leaders deflect responsibility by crying discrimination whenever they're questioned. That's not leadership, she said. That's avoidance. Her message was clear. If you want respect, earn it through truth, not sympathy. McClain then took the debate to a factual level, listing instances where Omar's statements had caused controversy. She brought up remarks that had offended many Americans, statements that Omar later claimed were misunderstood or taken out of context. McClain paused after each example, letting the words hang in the air before reminding Omar, "These weren't rumors. These were your own words." The audience watched as McClain built her case brick by brick, exposing the pattern of provocation followed by self-victimization. For the first time, Omar appeared uneasy, no longer in control of the narrative she had shaped for years. McClain wasn't attacking her. She was simply holding up a mirror, and the reflection was uncomfortable to see. Next voice, next voice. With the room hanging on her every word, Lisa McClain shifted the tone from confrontation to principle. She spoke about what real leadership looks like, describing it as the ability to face hard truths with humility. Strong leaders admit when they've gone too far, she said. They don't hide behind emotion. Her statement drew quiet nods across the chamber. McClain explained that Americans are desperate for honesty from their elected officials. They don't want politicians who turn every criticism into a cry for sympathy. They want results, accountability, and moral strength. The calm conviction in her tone contrasted sharply with Omar's earlier emotional outburst. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about truth standing tall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard from my colleagues the reasons why the Representative Omar should be removed from this committee, but I feel like all the reasons have not just yet been stated, which is why I rise to add for the record. We've heard about the comments that were made regarding anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli views, but I rise to add to the record that as a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I've sat there and heard the representative actually spew anti-American rhetoric as well.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silent?
But Omar, unwilling to give in, returned to her theme of being constantly attacked for who she is. She said, "People like McClain don't understand what it's like to face daily hate." McClain's reply was sharp yet professional. "This isn't about who you are," she said. "It's about what you've said and done." Those words landed with force. McClain explained that every member of Congress gets criticized. That comes with the job, but the difference is how you respond. "Accountability is not discrimination," she added. "It's democracy in motion." The audience could sense the frustration in Omar's tone as she struggled to counter the logic McClain was laying down with ease. Next voice, the confrontation reached its breaking point when McClain looked straight at Omar and said, "You cannot continue to divide this country and then complain about division." The line hit like thunder. The chamber fell silent as if everyone needed a moment to process what had just been said. McClain had captured the heart of the issue in one sentence, a simple truth that exposed years of hypocrisy and political rhetoric. Omar looked visibly shaken, caught between defending herself and acknowledging that McClain had a point. McClain didn't press further. She stood tall, letting the silence do the talking. It was the kind of silence that meant victory, not one of celebration, but of conviction. McClain continued by delivering a lesson that every politician needed to hear. She said, "Congress was never meant to be a place for personal sensitivity. It was meant to be a platform for ideas, debates, and solutions. If disagreement feels like an attack to you," she said, "then maybe this isn't the right place to be." Her words echoed like a wake-up call across the chamber. McClain spoke about the difference between emotional appeal and effective leadership, explaining that voters don't reward those who seek pity, they reward those who take action.
Is anyone surprised that I am being targeted? Is anyone surprised that I am somehow deemed unworthy to speak about American foreign policy? Or that they see me as a powerful voice that needs to be silenced? Frankly, it is expected, because when you push power, power pushes back. Representation matters. Continuing to expand our ideas of who is American and who can partake in the American experiment is a good thing.
Difference between emotional appeal and effective leadership, explaining that voters don't reward those who seek pity, they reward those who take action. Her tone was firm but dignified, reminding everyone that public service is about strength, not sympathy. Next voice, as the chamber settled down. Lisa Imlan leaned into her microphone with a steady gaze, calling out what she described as a pattern of distraction from Ilhan Omar. Milan said that every time Omar faces a valid question about her record or words, she diverts the focus toward identity and victimhood. She reminded Congress that every American has faced challenges, but leaders must rise above emotion and stand on truth. Her voice carried the weight of frustration, not just for herself, but for citizens who feel unheard when politicians make everything about themselves instead of the people they represent. The tension in the room was thick, but Milan's confidence made it clear she wasn't backing down. When Ilhan Omar responded, she framed herself as someone constantly misunderstood and attacked. She spoke about hate and discrimination, but Milan's reaction was firm. She said, "No one here doubts your story, but this isn't about you. It's about accountability." That sentence alone shifted the entire tone of the room. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. Milan's delivery cut through the emotional fog, refocusing everyone on the fact that leadership demands responsibility. Her calm yet assertive tone showed that sometimes the truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be consistent. Milan turned her attention to the bigger picture, saying that Americans are exhausted from representatives who play emotional games instead of offering real solutions.
Palestinians, nobody condemned him on that side of the aisle. What is true here is that every single one of them has not acknowledged the fact that Palestinians are dying in the tens of thousands, but will continue to say it is us who are not acknowledging humanity. Rashida will stand strong.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
The Palestinian movement will continue for liberation until every single Palestinian has the right to
Gentleman
live
from
in
Maryland
liberty.
is recognized. We reserve. Reserves, gentlemen. Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from Michigan is recognized.
Chairman, ranking member, and distinguished members of this committee, thank you for holding this very important hearing. I'm no stranger to discrimination, hate speech, or threats of violence against my family and myself simply because of my identity. As a Black, visibly Muslim woman who came to this country as a refugee, I have dealt with racist, xenophobic, bigoted comments and threats all my life. Even being elected to offices hasn't stopped me from being othered. I've received vile remarks from the public as well as members of Congress. Sadly, I am just one of millions of Americans across this country who have experienced discrimination and attacks.
Gentleman reserves. Gentlelady from Michigan is recognized.
She pointed out that every time Ilhan Omar faces criticism, it becomes a spectacle of tears, emotions, and accusations, yet never about solutions or accountability. Imlan said, "When leadership turns into theater, the people lose faith." Her comment wasn't just directed at Omar. It was a broader message about how emotional manipulation has become a political strategy. The gallery went quiet because beneath her words was a truth many were afraid to say out loud. Omar's attempt to redirect the topic once again failed when Milan firmly brought the conversation back to policy. She questioned Omar's record on key national issues, asking why she spends more time creating division than offering answers. Milan's paragraph-long statement sounded less like a debate and more like a reality check. That politics isn't about self-defense, it's about public service. Every sentence hit with precision, exposing how easily victimhood has replaced accountability in modern politics. The room's energy shifted from emotional to reflective, as even Omar's allies seemed unable to refute the logic. As Imlan continued, she exposed how the constant use of identity politics weakens genuine discussions about discrimination. She said, "Real victims deserve empathy, not to be used as shields by politicians." Her voice cracked slightly as she spoke, not out of weakness but from sheer conviction. She argued that when leaders misuse their platform for personal sympathy, they insult those who truly suffer without power or privilege. That emotional yet controlled delivery gave her words a gravity that lingered long after she stopped speaking. It wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a moral challenge to the entire room. Omar tried again to defend herself by pointing out how her background shaped her worldview, but McClain quickly countered that every representative has a story, yet stories don't replace accountability. Her statement was long, steady, and unwavering as she spoke about how the American people expect honesty, not excuses. She emphasized that emotional narratives may win attention, but do nothing to fix broken systems. Her words highlighted the difference between empathy and evasion, drawing a clear line between understanding someone's past and excusing their present behavior. McClain's voice carried a tone of exhaustion as she explained how playing the victim damages the credibility of real struggles. She said that every time Ilhan Omar turns criticism into a personal attack, it discourages open dialogue and fuels public resentment. McClain warned that politics should never be reduced to emotional manipulation, because when it does, truth becomes the first casualty. Her long statement wasn't just directed at Omar, but served as a reflection on how politics has become more about feelings than facts, and how dangerous that is for democracy. As the hearing dragged on, McClain took a deep breath and delivered what many called the moment of the day. She said that leadership means being questioned, being uncomfortable, and still standing tall. She accused Ilhan Omar of confusing accountability with persecution, saying, "It's not oppression to be held responsible for your words." That line became the quote that dominated headlines. Later, McClain's speech transformed frustration into a call for maturity, that being a leader isn't about sympathy, it's about strength in facing uncomfortable truths. McClain closed her binder and spoke directly to the public watching the broadcast. She reminded viewers that emotional politics might make headlines, but never makes progress. "The American people deserve solutions, not performances," she said, her tone calm yet commanding. She made it clear that Congress is a place for results, not excuses. Every word felt deliberate, almost surgical in precision. And by the time she finished, even her critics couldn't deny that she had turned the tide of the debate entirely in her favor. As the hearing concluded, the atmosphere felt completely different. McClain had not shouted, insulted, or mocked. She simply outlasted every emotional argument with unwavering composure and truth. Ilhan Omar, who entered the hearing trying to play the victim, left looking exposed and defensive. Commentators later said that McClain's calm dominance symbolized the growing frustration of many Americans who want accountability, not drama, from their leaders. It was more than just a clash. It was a statement on what real leadership looks like when faced with emotional manipulation in politics. By the time the exchange drew toward its end, the atmosphere in the room had shifted entirely. Omar's emotional argument had lost its force, overshadowed by McClain's steady presence and logical precision. What started as a defensive monologue had turned into a masterclass in accountability. Even those who often sided with Omar seemed unwilling to defend her this time. McClain hadn't resorted to personal attacks or cheap theatrics. She'd simply stood firm in truth, and that truth had dismantled the emotional shield Omar tried to hide behind. It was a rare congressional moment where reason triumphed over rhetoric. As the hearing wrapped up, McClain ended with a closing statement that summed up the entire confrontation. "The American people deserve honesty, not excuses," she said. "They want leaders who take responsibility for their words and their actions." The chamber remained silent, not in disagreement, but in quiet acknowledgement of the truth. When the footage later hit the internet, it spread like wildfire. Viewers praised McClain's composure and fearlessness. Many said she had spoken for millions of Americans tired of emotional manipulation in politics. Omar's attempt to play the victim had failed spectacularly, and in that moment, McClain emerged as the voice of reason in a room full of noise. That fiery exchange between McClain and Ilhan Omar will be remembered as one of the most defining political confrontations of the year. McClain's strength, logic, and courage stood out in a climate dominated by emotion and division.